Stellar Fundraising Auctions presents Inside the Industry, a special episode of Black Tie and Tails, brought to you by our sponsor Sojourn Ventures, featuring your host Greg Quiroga and this episode's special guest Jared Villareal of Deluxe Productions. Welcome to Black Tie and Tails, Inside the Industry, where we go behind the scenes of the wonderful world of fundraising auctions with an industry insider who is an expert in their field. Today, I'm joined by Jared Villareal, Director of Operations for Deluxe Productions, the Bay Area's premier AV and event production, emphasis on production company. Longtime friend and associate. Welcome, Jared.
It's great to be here, Greg.
I appreciate you getting out from behind the camera because normally you guys are on the other side.
We're trying to be like event ninjas, all black,
disappear.
Yeah, exactly. Like coming in on stage, like fixing something, maybe putting a mic in somebody's face,
right
away. So
I appreciate you coming out to this side of the camera to chat with me. And I've been trying to remember, I remember when I first met Tom Durante, the founder of Lux, because I was doing an event for Justin Sienna's school, and he came out and he's like, "Hey, this is my sound system," and I thought we'd gotten some parent who was a volunteer to donate their sound, and I was like, "Oh, well, that's nice, dude." And then I was like, "Oh, wow, that was awesome," and then came to learn that he had this whole vision and Lux Productions was a thing, and I think. You and I'm trying to remember. Have we worked at Boys and Girls Clubs?
Yeah. My first actually vivid memory of you is SCDS.
Okay.
Years ago. It was after the event and you and I were in the green room chilling and you were heading off to go camping on a camping trip with your wife and your son.
I was trying to get out. Yeah. They were camping that night. Yeah.
And so I remember that. And I just remember it was I can't remember. I think I was doing lighting and our audio guy was still out there with the DJ or something like that. And that's the very first time that I can remember your face and the vest and everything.
Which we may have been in their gym at that point.
Yeah. I think it was one of the last years that we were in the gym.
They used to do an amazing job in the gym of decor. And we'll come back to that because I think how to transform a space is part of what y'all are good at. And
Thank you.
It's not just, oh, hey, look, we've got a sound system. So I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm way ahead of myself at this point. So if we met in 08, 09, when did you join Lux Productions?
Oh, geez. It was summer 2006.
Okay.
Tom was still teaching part-time at Solano Community College.
What?
Yeah. And I was in the chorus in Sweeney Todd. It was my first musical. And Tom was actually running the fly rail.
What's a fly rail for the uninitiated?
So it's a system of weights, pulleys, that kind of thing. So you can fly things like electrics or lighting battens or scenery in and out.
Okay.
So Tom was running that. And the technical director who ran everything tech for that theater was like, "Hey, this is my friend Tom." And I was like, "Hey, Tom."
Right.
And the next thing I knew, Eric was leaving, Eric Stagel, who went on to Oberlin College to be the technical director there, and UC Davis. And anyways, Tom was like, "Hey, I'm going to go work for Tom. Do you want a job?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "No, come work for me." He called me the week before and he's like, "Hey man, we have a show for you. Are you down?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course," know? And it was actually a festival opera at Meadowood, 2006.
Okay.
So my first gig was we're doing an opera.
Right.
On the green at Meadowood.
Which must have really played into your theater background and aspirations.
At that point in time, I didn't realize being in a theater program, there's this whole other side of it.
Right.
That you can go into and pay the bills.
Interesting.
So
your aspirations were set actor and you kind of recalibrated towards production.
Yeah. And the whole reason I got into theater is I wanted to be a professional wrestler.
Okay.
So my parents were like, "We will pay for you to go to wrestling school, but you need a degree." And then everybody around me was like, "Well, you should do theater." And so I got into theater my senior year of high school.
Okay.
And then that's when it was well, I'm just going to do this. I'll learn how to memorize lines, sing, whatever.
Did you have your wrestler name picked out?
I was already doing backyard wrestling stuff. Sure. There's videos that you could find if you knew the right people.
Right.
But for the most part, I had my vision set. And that was kind of where I wanted to okay, well, I'll do theater and this and that. And then I just fell in love with the technical aspect of it. I really wanted to be punk rock touring, like audio guy. And then the first show where somebody was like, why don't you pick the gels for the dance floor lighting? And I was like, okay. And then like, you know, Tom pulls me aside and he starts teaching me color theory and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is way more fun. Like I don't have to memorize.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like frequencies and stuff. And so then from that point on, it was just like, oh, this is what I'm going to do.
And you alluded to the underlying expertise that you and Tom and everybody at the Lux brings, because color theory is going pretty deep above and beyond like hiring somebody to just like show up and set up a couple of speakers. And one of the things that I love about you and the team at the Lux is that you are so much more than just an event rental company. So what's the difference between AV rental and event production?
In my opinion, it's like being a part of a collaborative process.
Sure. Like
so much of, to go back into like theater, right? To go back into like what it means to have a choreographer, a scenic designer, a lighting designer, a sound designer, and having all of these people. And then there's a director and they're all, you know, pitching decks, sketches, that kind of stuff to really sell the vision of the show, right? Whether it's like a black box with odd shapes and pedestals and you're doing something super Greek style, or it's like, we want to do Hamlet, but like apocalyptic. Okay. You know what I mean? Like there's so
it's a whole side of you I didn't know existed all these years. This is fun.
So like to be able to collaborate and like sit in on a site visit with a client, and then they're like, okay, you know, and then they look at you with like those lost eyes, you know, and then you're like, okay, time out.
Right.
Where are people sitting? Yeah. What's your run of show? How many people are you going to have on stage? Are you going to have any live entertainment? Right. Do you want them highlighted? Like to be able to really go through and like kind of produce the event from a technical standpoint, but not just be like, tell me what you need, where and when, like to really understand from a foundational level what the mission of the event is and what the mission of the organization is. Right. And I think a lot of people tend to just be like, hey man, I'm just bringing speakers. Tell me where your people are sitting. But to really get an understanding of like, like what is your goal? Well, we spent $100,000 to produce this Fun to Need video that's got all of these like, you know what I mean? Like drone shots and this and that, and really intense, like people crying, and it's close up, and it's like, you really need to make sure that you have all of the things in your tool belt to communicate. Right. You know, whether that's speakers, microphones, TVs, LED walls, projection screens, there's different ways to tell your story and to help sell your mission. Yeah.
Wonderfully put. And how many events a year does the Lux do? And how many of those are nonprofit fundraising events where there's an auction and or a fund to need?
So I would say about 150. Wow. Roughly 150 events a year. Now, of course, we do, you know, corporate social events. Sure. And then we also do nonprofit. And we're one of the few companies that actually splits nonprofit out from social.
In what sense?
So like sometimes companies will be like, oh, well, gala events that's a part of our social total. Okay. But for us, we break that out and it's its own thing. It's its own vertical market, right? Sure. Okay. Probably like 30 to 36% of the events that we're doing are nonprofit galas.
Wow. Okay. So out of 150 events, that's over 50 a year. Yeah. Which people always say to me like, oh, that's one every weekend. And we both know that no, that's 2 to 3 a week during the busy season. Right. Which means that you, I mean, I came in through the warehouse, and you're not going to see it on the way in, but you're not going to see it because we're not going to video it. But came in through the warehouse. The warehouse is big. Yeah. There's a lot of equipment out there. And it also means you have access to a lot of talent to help set up that equipment and run it. Because again, going back to, if you're getting to know the mission of the event, from the fundraising side, I always say like, what's the culture of the event? What are we trying to like, is this a crowd that is going to be in shorts and Hawaiian and raise 2 million, or a crowd that's going to be a black tie and, you know, and raise 1.5? They're different crowds. There's different cultures at those events. They're all valid, right? So 50 something events a year is a ton. Honing in on the nonprofits, like without getting specifically into the numbers of it, but talking budget, like what's the range of budget people come to you with? Like obviously somebody's not going to hire the Lux to come set up 2 speakers and leave them running, right? Because that's just, I mean, that's not what you guys do, and what's the point?
So that's a really good question, because, and obviously I talked to the owner about this prior too, like, how do you want me to, but nothing's really off the table.
Okay.
Right? Like it really comes down to relationship. Like we have the capability to drop off. Like if somebody's saying like, look, this is just a quick down and dirty, like a volunteer training that we're going to do.
Sure.
I don't have a lot of budget for it.
Right.
Like we'll have somebody run the microphone. Can you drop it off? And this is a client that we're doing, 4 big events for a year.
Sure.
Or 1 large one and 2 smaller. It's always a conversation. It's really about timing for us.
Okay.
Because obviously, like you might have something on Friday, Saturday, and then you got to take it all down Sunday. So it's really about like during the week, and when the season is, like, you want us to drop off a 2-speaker sound system on a Wednesday in January, we can talk.
Got it. So is there a bare minimum budget? Like, you should be looking to spend X before you pick up the phone and call us?
No, I mean, not really.
Okay.
It's so relationship driven.
Okay.
That, I mean, could we do something for in the $2,000, $5,000 range? Yeah, we can talk.
Okay. When a nonprofit organization engages the Lux, what's the number one question they should ask but don't?
I'm a big proponent of like, what do you need from me by when?
Expectation management.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the biggest thing, because I feel like they don't necessarily know where to start all the time, right? Like,
okay,
they think, like you were saying, that they need to engage just like a normal rental house.
Sure.
So by that, I mean,
but you ask me, what do you need by when? And I'm like, well, I have an event on this date and I need the sound. Right?
Well, correct. But I mean, like, they should come to us and be like, hey, what information from me would help you in your situation? So like, for example, then I can go, well, who's handling your timeline? Who's handling the rentals for you and the kitchen? Who do we need to talk to for power? Like all those kind of things. So it comes down to like the basic, like venue details, production timelines, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Venue details. And I think that to me is probably a pretty important component, because the event space and the event space, there's 2 things, right? That in the equation of what sound system do we need, the event space, the number of people, 3 things, and their behavior, right? So in a fundraising auction environment, people talk the whole time and party on. How do you advise clients for working with that as opposed to working against that tendency of people to talk during fundraising auctions?
Well,
it's a curveball. Sorry, that wasn't in the list of questions. That wasn't in the list of questions, but
I think one of the things that we do a little differently is we tend to spec more speakers. Sure. That we can, pump audio at different levels in different areas. Sure. Delays, like, is what one of the things that people call them in the audio world. But doing that instead of setting up 2 speakers at the front of the stage and cranking them. Right. So then that way your 4 important tables are getting blasted out. Right. We tend to do that kind of a thing. So then that way you have intelligibility. Sure. I think that's one of the things that I tend to hear is like, well, you sure that's the right amount of speakers? And we're like, oh yeah. And like you were saying, like big boomy spaces like San Francisco Design Center. I mean, right. Even working in a tent, our biggest client, they build a tent in a winery, and rather than, hanging 2 giant like rock and roll clusters, we actually tend to do line arrays hung in smaller groups that we can, shoot at tables correctly. So then that way we're not overwhelming them with sound, and the auctioneer is super intelligible. Got it. Almost like pinpoint sound placement at that point. Yeah. Interesting. Making sure that we have speakers. So like if the tables are going a little bit further into the stage, right? Like got to have speakers right there. So then that way we don't have to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like those kind of like really thinking about speaker placement the way that you would a lighting plot or sprinklers at home on your front lawn, right? Like, why do I have this dead patch here? Well, you know, it's kind of the same thing.
Interesting.
And when you actually put that data into like some 3D mapping software that we tend to use, you can actually see where your hotspots are, where they aren't, which speakers are right for the job, you know, that kind of thing.
And I think it's further down on the list of questions that we were talking about discussing, but I have always appreciated the ways in which the Lux has embraced new technologies. And it does not surprise me to hear that there is technology out there that enables you to 3D map hotspots for sound in an event.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's not a question. That's just a statement. How far in advance should an event contact you?
I mean, the sooner the better. I mean, like you really hit the nail on the head too. Everything tends to happen on like the same kind of weekends, right? Like if you're thinking about summer, if you want to like zoom out, everybody goes on vacation in July.
Yep.
So then that really shortens up the weekend availability.
Sure.
Right. So the sooner the better. I mean, we've literally had clients, you know, we tear down a show on a Sunday, everything's back in the warehouse, and we'll get an email that says, hey, thank you. Will you please hold this date for us?
Right.
We go
for next year.
Put it in the computer. Yeah. So the sooner the better. Sure. And then honestly, like, yeah, you don't have to necessarily have a scope down yet.
Sure.
You could even just be like, we're thinking about these 3 venues, but we would like to use your services.
And that way you've got it on the books. I always tell people, look, go ahead and schedule, like, give me the dates of, if I have a client that's talking about changing dates, I'm like, hey, just tell me what those dates are. It's easier for me to come to you and say, hey, somebody's looking at that second Saturday in April than it is to say like, oh, I wish you'd told me, right? And I love new clients. I'm always looking for new clients, but I also appreciate building partnerships and the opportunity to partner with organizations going forward. And the Lux obviously does that very well, because I'm thinking back to as the Boys and Girls Club of Sonoma Valley, for example. And we've been working together on that event for a long time. And I'm thinking of other organizations, like, I mean, you guys have been working with the V Foundation going back as long as I can have conscious of the V Foundation's event.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's been, I think this was my 19th V Foundation. Wow. Yeah. So to go from like a little punk rock kid with with piercings and like,
to
like, you know, now I basically oversee the estates events. Like, so I have, I mean, real quick, if I could just shout out the team, like,
please, we
have a bunch of really good young production supervisors that really blow me away with the amount of knowledge and know-how and technical ability that like I wish I had when I was their age, you know, and their ability to just like get on YouTube, ask ChatGPT stuff, find things out, source inspiration and stuff like that is really cool. And just to see the team grow. I mean, like when I first started, obviously it was Tom,
right?
You know, and he basically handled everything.
Right.
And now to where we have like a team of directors and we have a team of production supervisors is really cool to see how this company has grown and scaled accordingly.
Yeah.
You know, to where Tom can hang out at the main tent where the gala is going on, and then I can hang out at another property and make sure that the wheels are turning there. So yeah, the more time that we have, the better, obviously. And there have been, there've been clients and partners that have been like, what date works for you next year? Legit. Like there's been people that are like, we're thinking about throwing it in May. What's a weekend in May that we could, and that's really cool to have that kind of a relationship with them.
I so appreciate when organizations do that. I have the number one way I lose events is they change their date. And without asking. And I worked at the big wine auction in Southern California, and they came back to me last year and they're like, oh, hey, by the way, we're doing our event on this date next year. And I said, that's great. You're using somebody else. I wish I could be there, but I mean, I take it as a tribute or a testament to, my ability to make clients feel unique, like, oh, you're the only one. But the reality is like, if you're doing 150 something events a year, they damn well better ask you when you're available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd hope, you would hope. We try and make it work as best as we can.
What's the latest, most last minute an event could or has contacted you?
I've gotten a phone call at 3:00 on a Friday after like everybody went home early on a holiday weekend. And they were like, we need 50 feet of pipe and drape. And I was like, okay. Yeah. And I called around and I had one truck coming back and I was like, hey, we gotta go do this.
Doing a little overtime.
Yeah. And it's part of the job. Like we work when we're needed.
Sure.
And, you know, it's all good. It's always an opportunity, right?
Fair enough. I alluded to it earlier that the Lux has always been on the cutting edge of new technology. I firmly remember when you guys first rolled out the video walls, and it was, that technology has changed amazingly over the years in terms of the number of pixels you can get onto a screen. But I still remember like it was a game changer to suddenly be able to show videos during the day in a tent. So what is the coolest technology that you're currently exploring or incorporating into events?
Well, the newest, latest and greatest is we have like a video floor. So think like LED wall on the ground that you're walking on.
Wow. And so what's the resolution like?
Really good. So pixel pitch is 2 millimeter. So it's really thin. It's really fine.
Okay.
I could send you photos if you wanted to like splice them in and like,
yeah. Let's include some examples. But what are some uses?
You can use it for, you could use it as a dance floor. You could use it as a deck for a stage. One of the things that I think is really cool that it could be used for is activations. So like kind of starting to see more of this on the nonprofit sector. Like it's coming from corporate into this. So obviously you have what's called an activation. It's something you can take a photo of for Instagram, or it's like a game that has like a symbol of the corporate logo on it. You can play a game or whatever.
Sure.
So being able to use that to entice people to doing activations, to learn things. There's a lot of different like interactive cameras and stuff that you could utilize with it.
Okay.
From that to, just a fun dance floor.
Okay.
That's an option.
Interesting.
So that's number one. Number two, at the end of the year, last year, we just felt like we wanted something that had a little more like punch to it, that was kind of more on the cutting edge, that you're starting to see more on like the concert side.
Sure.
And that's lasers. High-powered lasers. And you saw them, I think, at Boys and Girls Club in Sonoma. Okay. The Studio 54 logo.
Yes.
So being able to use those fixtures to, create more of an interactive lighting display of like lasers coming over your head, or if it's in a very well-lit room, you could use that to, put somebody's logo on the wall in the middle of the day, that kind of stuff.
Cool beans.
Or with a lot of ambient lighting. So those are the two newest things that I think that we have, that we're slowly starting to, tell our clients about, let them know now that we're feeling comfortable using them.
Sure.
But those are the two new hottest and greatest.
So video dance floors or video stages. I can envision, the selfish part of me can envision a video wall and dance floor that are connected and utilizing imagery that goes back and forth between the two of them during various presentations.
And if you did something where you had a camera that was at a high angle, right, you could have the content on the floor and on the wall, that kind of stuff. So just opening up new possibilities. Sure. It's a new product for us too. So being able to, it's lighter weight than what we had previously. So being able to fly it in different ways as well.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really cool. We're really excited. We've actually done some like builds in our warehouse to just kind of like get used to it and see what you could do. And it's always fun to do like the VJ thing of like, shapes, tunnels, this kind of stuff. But then I was like, let me play around with what we have as far as like a river and a waterfall, and like it looks like the river's coming down and then you're in the pool where it's coming, or where it's, so it's like, it was fun. It's like, okay, well, we got to figure out who this is for, how, where can we sell it, that kind of stuff.
my social media ruined brain jumps to the prank videos in elevators where they put one of these floors in the bottom of the elevator and then they have the floor fall out, or they put the shark tank on the side and then they have the shark charge the tank.
So I actually did that. We did we did an aquarium setup.
Okay.
So we had like 3 LED walls and then we had the floor, and it was literally like we wanted to feel like you were in an aquarium.
Okay.
So like that was kind of fun to do, and like it's to show the guys and be like, no, this is what we're talking about when we say like interactive, immersive, that kind of stuff. So
neat.
Yeah, it's just it's another tool to tell your story.
But so I love the ability in a podcast to be able to go and listen. If you're listening on Spotify, I totally appreciate you. Listening on Apple, whatever, that's great. I appreciate you taking us on the go. But I love the fact that on YouTube we can go and put in and give all these examples. And I knew coming into this conversation that you and the entire team do a great job of documenting the productions that you do and putting and putting some of it out there on social media. Mm-hmm. So the link will be in the bio of this podcast or the description of this podcast. But what event production technology is more affordable than most events most people realize?
So like the word affordable to me is like, what can you afford to like not have, right? But I will say this. Right. What you can always move things around to make things like LED walls affordable. Like we did a small private school in San Rafael.
Okay.
And they were like, we spent all this money on this video.
Right.
Like we have to be able to see it.
We want to see it.
And they were like, the video walls are so much more expensive than the TVs. And the director of development had to go back to his team and be like, the only thing worse than spending more money on something that we don't necessarily know we're going to value right away is running the risk of spending the money on this video and then nobody's seeing it.
Yeah.
So then of course during the event, we had PA and we had a video wall, and the rest of his staff was just blown away. Yeah. And the rest of the parents were too, because it's 6:00 on a Friday night in May, and they could see the video high def, literally the sun hitting the video wall.
Yeah.
So it's all about how you need to move money around to make things happen.
Sure. Okay.
And again, coming to us and saying like, well, we're not really there yet this year.
Yeah.
What can we do?
Mm-hmm.
And having a conversation with us rather than just, it's just too expensive.
Right. Or making assumptions or treating it like they're just going to tell you and then you're going to walk away.
Totally. Like we always want to, again, collaborate, have a relationship with somebody to come in as a producing partner and say like, hey, you're spending a ton of money here on uplighting the garden. You guys aren't going to be outside until you're leaving anyways. You really should take the money that you want to spend on all of this lighting here and potentially move it to your video wall.
Sure.
Which is what happened for this private school.
Sure.
And also I understand that sometimes it might not be the right fit, and even though we want to make it work where we can, but I'd say that we can always just start having a dialogue on what's important and to the organization, to the mission, and how we can best serve that. Sometimes, we might not be doing anything too flashy. It might be, hey, do you want to do all this fun lighting? But in reality, you guys need to focus on audio and video.
Well, and if you're going to splurge on a video wall or incorporate any sort of technology into your event, then I always encourage you to use it for use it as much as possible. Mm-hmm. Make it make it important, right? I just did an event that outdoors in a vineyard, summertime. So got to have the video wall, and they actually have an auction countdown. Mm-hmm. So as everybody's getting seated, a specially built 10-minute video plays that has all sorts of information about the organization and also just fun stuff playing. And in the corner, a countdown, 10 minutes. Auction starts and it started at 10 minutes and it started working its way down. And to utilize it for more than just, okay, well, now we've started.
Well, and video wall is less about a large TV that you can see outdoor. Sure. It can be used as a scenic piece.
Sure.
for one of our clients, they tend to do a really large stage backdrop with the LED wall, literally edge to edge, maybe even a little more.
Wow.
Floor to ceiling, not floor to ceiling, but you know what I mean? Like floor to where the tent meets the tent legs. And we actually generate all the content for it.
Okay.
So, you know, being able to, instead of dealing with their assets coming in.
Full production, more than just, okay, we're showing up and we're setting this thing up. We're helping create the content that is going to maximize the value of this setup that we are bringing to you.
Right. And the director of production at the Lux, Ryan, you're amazing and you're wonderful at what you do. And really the thing with Ryan is he's not just generating.
He's going to ask me to ask you to say that again.
You know, Ryan, because it's one thing to make good looking content. It's another thing to make good looking content on a specific medium, right?
Sure.
So like Ryan knows what's going to pop on an LED wall. Ryan knows what's going to look good if we're projection mapping the ceiling of the tent, which we've done before too.
Okay.
So being able to do that piece as like a, you know, again, telling your story,
right,
full on messaging, is really a game changer for us. It was one thing to have a video wall and then for clients to teach it like a giant TV screen. It's another thing when it's like, no, this is a scenic piece. This is how you're going to tell your story. This is how you're going to message. At the San Francisco Design Center, we would do an event where there would be all four floors.
Right.
And it was really hard for them to stomach the cost of a LED wall. Mm-hmm. And the whole reason that we were able to sell it is we were like, well, okay, all of these other TVs that you're doing, you know, like this is how much it's going to spend. And then all of your messaging that you want to do on each individual TV, instead, we're going to put one LED wall in the space and you can see it from every floor.
The San Francisco Design Center, for those who haven't been, and we'll definitely put imagery up of this, is a large open air in the center, mezzanine, multiple mezzanine-ish levels walking around. So you've got the big main floor down at level 1, but then 2, 3, and 4 all are, I don't know, 15, 20 foot wide walkways that go in a big semicircle around the center stage. So you're talking about the difference between having individual television screens or LED, small LCD, small being 55, 90 inches in this case, not like my first TV small, set around versus let's build a central focal point and direct all of the engagement and content there. And
messaging, engagement, content, and messaging, right? So then that way at any point in time, you could be grabbing like, you know, a cup of coffee at the ritual cart and then turn around and be like, oh, they opened the floor in 5 minutes. Or like, you know, this sponsor or whatever. So it's pretty cool to kind of rely on that and have all of that information coming into one source rather than like, okay, guys, now you need to take a lap and make sure all the TVs are doing stuff.
Right.
You know, it's super helpful.
Yeah. Because something as small as one TV glitching can suddenly, it's like it can make it won't, I'm not going to say it ruins an event entirely, but it definitely like affects the perception, and it definitely has a weird reflection or a bad reflection on you as a production company, but just also the event as a whole. Like, oh, well, we're up here and this TV is glitching. So people are like, meh, meh, meh. How important is lighting?
Oh man.
Oh, good.
It's paramount. It's quite possibly one of the most important and sometimes overlooked pieces to an event. You're talking to a guy who just 3 weeks ago spent 4 days in Disneyland.
Okay.
And so like appreciating the art of what they do there and seeing like, you're going to look where they want you to look, and they're going to do that with light and what creates shadows and what doesn't. So if you extrapolate that to like what we do, we can create focal points. We can, you know, we can make sure that things are being seen that need to be seen, that have to be seen, right? Because if you can't see something as an auctioneer, from an auctioneer standpoint, like if you can't read a big panel,
about me,
you know, I think you had Michael Irvine on here from the Boys and Girls Club, and you guys were talking about those big, huge posters.
Yes.
And I remember overhearing in production meetings the importance of lighting those posters correctly.
Callback.
You know what I mean? So like, we need to light what needs to be lit.
Sure.
Because so that way people can see it, right? You need to highlight things. You need to tell the story. For you, then there's also the utilitarian portion of it, right? Like
Okay.
you have to make sure bars are lit.
Okay.
Right. You need to make sure that at the check-in and check-out, people can
Sure.
do that effectively.
Right.
You know, trying to think of like the most PC way of saying this. Sometimes your patrons are hard of seeing, and so it's really important. And me, by the way, I'm same. As I get older, I can't see in the dark as good.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
and one of the things I tell people is like, if you really want to see what it's like take the font that you're talking about using for your program and go in your bathroom and only turn on the shower light.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's what it's going to be like. And if you go to start your auction and everybody does this,
right,
something's wrong, right? Like the size of the program, the lighting in the room, something's not right.
And making sure that things are at the right angle too.
Yeah, sure.
People can read it. It's always one of my favorite places to work is the Academy of Sciences.
Okay.
And a lot of times people utilize the downstairs space, the aquarium, for silent auction stuff.
Interesting.
Which you got to be really careful when you're working down there because you can't have any light hitting the tanks.
Lights at the tanks.
So you got to be really direct. You got to make sure it's at the right angle. It's really dimly lit.
Right.
So making sure that kind of stuff is happening.
Yeah, they want the aquariums to pop.
Well, you don't want to disturb.
And you also can't disturb the fish.
You can't disturb the
especially if you're doing a nighttime event.
So you've got that. You've got those kind of like practical lights that we call task lighting or accent lighting. And then from like the stage portion, right? Like you need to light the auction. And
Sure.
I feel like that there's ways technically to do it as well. Because as you know, I know that if you're on stage and I see you do this,
Right.
it's like I'll smack my lighting on and be like, hey man, you got to drop the lights a little bit.
Right.
Drop the front lights, you know,
Something.
let's get
Yeah,
the side fills going or whatever. Or if, you know, you auctioneers are selling a lot and you guys are looking like this, we got to bump the house lights up.
Yeah.
Right. Now, that being said, making sure that the dining room is designed and lit appropriately. So like making sure that, you know, we have a walk-in look. Like, so
Got it.
when I was doing this one for this event for I think it was something that had to do with the ocean. I had a walk-in look that was like all blues and like we were underwater and stuff like that. And then the second that the auctioneer come on stage, I was like, all right, we got to do auction look, bam. And then like we were able to brighten up the room, use some more warmer lights, that kind of stuff.
And I was an AV tech back 95, 96.
Okay.
And back then, if you wanted different color lights, you had to hang different colored lights.
Double hang meant that was a whole different thing because you had to hang two of each lighting position. So you had different colors.
Right. And that's if you wanted two. If you wanted three colors, oh my God. Yeah. Right. These days, talk about a technology that is advanced. These days, you can get multiple colors from a single light source.
Totally. Like additive color mixing via RGB, you know, diodes and all that kind of stuff for technical terms, or, you know, color changing LECOs or color changing PARs or anything like that. So instead of hanging this big, huge grid in the air, you can really get away with just a couple simple lighting positions.
When it comes to changing the ambiance of a space, so you come into a space and it's kind of a blank canvas. When it comes to changing the ambiance, uplighting versus pipe and drape, where do you guide people?
Oh.
What's your personal, forget that. What's your personal like?
Okay. So spaces, let's just talk about spaces in general. Okay. I love the dingy old like Native Sons Hall in St. Helena.
Okay.
Right. Which is like built in the early 1900s, falling apart, all white, like paint rafters. Like, cool, this building I can do some cool stuff with.
Okay.
So like how I light that, using uplights and things of that nature. Or like, you know, you can do things like pattern washes, right? Which pattern washes, I don't know how technical you want me to get, but I'll try and be as brief as possible.
No, go. Flex that knowledge, brother. Flex that knowledge.
You have spotlights that you can drop steel patterns into.
Gobos.
The gobos. There you go. Trying to be, you know,
lowest common denominator.
Like, yeah.
I appreciate it. You don't, don't want to assume the auctioneer is too bright. I
do, but you know, but like you could drop that into a light and that breaks up. That breaks up what's happening. So it's not just like, right.
So you can have gobos that aren't just necessarily just logos. You can have gobos that are patterns and so like the diffraction is intended to create an effect.
So like if I'm hanging a light there and there's a gobo pointed at me, and then there's like spring branches or leaves or something like that, like on the table.
Sure.
It's easier. Like if I'm talking to you, rather than having a light just hit me in the eye, I might be able to move my head like this.
Right.
So that way, and then not only, it actually feels more natural. Like when you're outside sitting underneath a tree, and it's easier to carry on. So
now I feel like I should have asked for a better set.
I mean, you know, we weren't so busy today. No, but being able to work the theme of the event in there, like, you know, if you want to do something that's Art Deco-y, like they make Art Deco patterns, and you can put those on the tables, and there's still enough light in those to where you can read the auction paddle numbers and stuff like that. So being able to utilize lighting not only from a utilitarian standpoint, but also a design standpoint, I think is paramount. Uplights. I mean, let's be honest, uplights in a white tent where there's white walls and a white ceiling, you can do a lot with. Uplights in a
uplights are doing a ton in Fort Mason.
No, they're not doing a ton in Fort Mason. Now that all depends on the size, and we can, you know, we can go into that. But in reality, like uplights in a room like the Ritz-Carlton where it's all white and mirrored. Sure. I mean, we did an event there and we just put out a ton of uplights, and it was almost like we color washed the room because you had so much reflection, right?
Sure.
So it's a good tool. It also goes within the theme, right? Like you can use it to help sell the theme if you're doing like a St. Patrick's thing, right? You can go uplights. Yeah. So it's another tool to help sell the vision of the event and to keep things on theme. Pipe and drape. It really depends on where you're working. I think it really can really help focus in on the stage. Not just doing like black in a room, like you can, again, what's the theme we could do? So then that way, like if, you know,
so I guess everybody tends to assume, I tend to assume that pipe and drape is all black velvet drape, but there's other colors.
There's lots of colors. There's lots of different kinds of material, everything from sheer to, you know, Taipei silk or silk is, you know, a fake silk that looks really nice as well. But also, you know, pipe and drape is also very utilitarian, right? Like there's a lot you could do with it. You can, I mean, you and I work in a lot of gyms. And so sometimes you don't need all of the gym for one room. So how do you section that off? So then that way, okay, this side is for, you know, the silent auction and the reception. Sure. And then you have the dining room, and then you can light them differently. You can use different PAs in those rooms. And also in really loud rooms, sometimes you want just pipe and drape just to
sound
help
dampening.
with so it's kind of a can of worms. It's whatever you want to do and whatever you need to do for the event, right?
Absolutely. You've mentioned venues. Do you have favorite venues? You mentioned the Native Sons Hall in St. Helena as being at the top of your list.
I really like working at the Academy of Sciences. And the reason why is I'm one of those types of guys where I need pressure to really perform. And you typically only get about an hour before guests start walking in. So you really have to have your T's crossed and your I's dotted when you go in there. And it's just, you're working in like one of the most beautiful museums in the United States. So there's that. We should do this one in Sausalito at Fort Cronkite.
Okay.
And they would build a tent in a parking lot for the Marine Mammal Center.
Okay.
Which is above Fort Cronkite. This is for Nature Bridge. They do like science camps.
Yeah.
So they actually rent a lot of old state and federal spaces, military bases, and then they end up, you know, having schools do science camps, like sleepaway camp. And so everybody comes in, they meet at Fort Cronkite, they walk around, they do the reception.
Reyes, right? Fort Cronkite is that, am I getting it wrong?
Rodeo Beach.
Okay.
So everybody parks, and then they all walk in, and then when it's time to head up to the tent, they have to hike up there. They don't have to, but they like to. And so the entire group's in like North Face or like Patagonia and like hiking shoes. And then everybody goes up there, and then you're in this clear wall, clear top tent that overlooks Rodeo Beach, which is pretty rad.
Right.
You know, and then just anywhere in Napa is pretty cool. I can't really complain about working in a winery where somebody's building a bare bones tent, and we're coming in and we're doing fabric in the ceiling, and we're hanging these custom chandelier clusters, and we're getting to put an LED wall up, and it's like, how do you compete with that backdrop in one of the most beautiful places in the world?
Fabric in the ceiling for visual effects, but also for sound?
No, mostly for visual effects.
Okay.
It helps.
Okay.
But for the most part, people want to do it to like maybe bring the ceiling down. They don't want to look at just a plain white tent top.
Okay.
With all the poles and everything everywhere.
I am not a designer, so.
Right. It's just,
I see everything from a like utilitarian standpoint.
Right. But then even then, if you're doing, you don't want to put fabric in the ceiling, we do things like gobo washes in the ceilings too. Sonoma Children's Charities, that's kind of like a custom look that we do.
Yeah.
White lights up at the ceiling, paint the ceiling, and then,
What is the most memorable event you've ever produced?
It's hard because I've done so many, but I think off the top of my head, every year I oversee the Rock the V kickoff party on Friday night.
And the V Foundation Wine Celebration, huge event in Napa. They just raised $12.5 million a couple weekends back.
I think it was 12.3, but yeah.
Yeah, 12.3 million. Auctioneers, our numbers always go up. Raised 12 point something million dollars, have done for years and years. Big, huge event, have the backing of ESPN. You said years ago, Kenny Loggins. So
yeah, and they always have some type of musical guest on that night, but that's like the pre-show. Sure. That's like the pre-party for the fundraiser. And it's pretty cool just to be a part of that, to see the community that they create. Okay. I love what we do for them and where we do it. And it's super fulfilling too, because it's cancer research. Who doesn't know somebody that's been affected by cancer?
You've mentioned things at the design center.
Yeah. We used to do a big event there. Like I said, that was 4 floors. Right. And it was cool because I also like the events that tend to reach out to like public, like, like a lot of people come to a lot of the events surrounding the V Foundation, not just the dinner. So it's cool. Make-A-Wish, they used to do a big tasting event. So like 3 floors were interactive. And then the bottom floor was when like the big auction and the big program would happen. And you could, so you can walk around and you would go to like, the slanted door and get like pork belly sliders, or you could go to Loving Cup had like a tasting section. And so you're having like all of this like awesome food and wine.
Real great experience of very San Francisco experience.
And then I think more importantly, I have like moments from events. Right. So we were at Design Center again, and it was for Coach Art. And I think what they do is they basically put together mentors for kids to help them. I don't know if they have special needs or not, but like, for example, like a girl wanted to learn how to dance. They couldn't afford, dance lessons. They paired her with a mentor and this and that. Cool. And we were down there and we had camera guys there trying to pick up shots, image magnification. So then that way, if you're sitting in the back, you could look up at the LED wall and you could see who was talking better and all that kind of stuff. So something happened to where they called somebody up to the stage, but they couldn't make it up to the stage. Okay. And without missing a beat, my camera guy, they might have been in a wheelchair. They might have had a cane. And without missing a beat, without me really saying anything, he just kind of like moved the camera and zoomed in really tight. And he was able to get like this big, huge, warm embrace. And like, people couldn't really see what was going on, but because of his vantage point, they were able to do that. And like they hugged, and you could see their face and you could see the tears, and everybody that was there stood up and started clapping. And it's like, the guys, because I call shows, if you hear in your headset, that's what's up. That it's like, good job. Like you're doing exactly what I want. And so that was like one of the coolest, most fulfilling things that I think I'd ever been a part of and seen. Because we're being creative in the moment and we're just kind of like going with it. Sure. And the next thing you know, it's like, that's money. That is it.
I love the psychology of fundraising. I mean, just psychology of being human, the way we react to things, the ways in which we're predictable and unpredictable. And one of my favorite things, any client has heard me say this numerous times, we form long-term memories when there is an emotion attached to a moment.
Yeah.
So when basically we need to make people feel. And if we can make people feel, it doesn't have to be all night, but if we can make a couple of moments that inspire emotion, that event is going to be memorable. And that sounds like an incredibly emotional.
That's a Maya Angelou quote, right? Like people won't remember who you are, the way you dress. They remember the way they make you feel or something like that.
Sure.
It was in a documentary, the WWE documentary that I just watched last night with my wife.
Cool.
Anyways, so yeah, being able to like, and who's to tell? How do you, again, going back to value and dollars and affordability, like, is that the difference between 2 and 10 grand? Who's to know? Right. But I think it ultimately helps.
I did an event once for the Fox Chase Cancer Center in Philadelphia, and it was their very first fundraising event ever. And we were talking about doing the Fund the Need and the importance of the Fund the Need. And we got this nurse to come and everybody was, hesitant about, but they bought in and we did. And we got a donor. Somebody jumped in at 10,000 who they'd never met before. It was his first time attending a fundraising event. And he was so moved by the nurse who made the pitch for the Fund the Need and by the cause that he was like, sure, I'll fund 2 of those chemotherapy chairs in for 10,000. They do the necessary cultivation because that's part of it. It's not just a one, like your involvement with events isn't a one night thing.
Yeah.
Neither should events involvement with their donors be a one night thing. It's all about cultivation. They do their cultivation, reach out, get him in. He becomes $1 million donor. He gives them 7 figures that year. And that doesn't happen without their fundraising event. That doesn't happen with creating that emotional moment. That doesn't happen if he can't hear the freaking auction in Fund the Need.
Right.
And he was in Philadelphia, so we couldn't call you in for it. But
no.
The point being, the point being, yes, the importance of these events. Like, you don't know how much you make, but sometimes you do.
Right.
Sometimes it's really obvious, and sometimes it's obvious on the flip side. But we won't even go into it. This is meant to be a positive affirmation podcast,
right?
Not our normal Black Tie and Tales is normally tales of triumph and tragedy. You can find more of those at blacktieandtales.com. But what are the 3 things every charity should do when contacting you for their AV needs?
Number 1 is be ready to have a conversation.
Okay.
Like, not just dump a laundry list of items that they need.
Sure.
We
need a flip chart.
Yeah. We really like thrive on that collaboration.
Sure.
So things like, give us an understanding of what your needs are, not just a list of an equipment. Sure. We have Fund to Need video. We need to make sure people hear it. Mm-hmm. We have a tasting event for the first hour when people come in. What other types of things do you want to stand out to at your event? Again, that same private school that we did in Marin, the theme was light. And so they really wanted to bring in the Taylor Swift lighted wristbands. So they wanted to have a way, so then that way you got a color associated to a grade level. So then that way, if
fun,
if a 6th grade parent wanted to talk to a 7th grade parent about what it's like to try and make that happen, you could. Yeah. So what type of things do you want to stand out at your event?
Sure.
And then obviously, right, date,
sure,
venue, time, vibe.
Yeah.
Any type of theme stuff that you can have. Hey, I have a design deck ready.
Right.
And again, going back to the earlier that you bring us in, I don't have a design deck ready. Here's what we're thinking.
Sure. Our event's in 9 months.
Right. And there have been times where I've actually, in my early careers as a production manager, I got a phone call and it's like, you always do our AV. Lux always does our AV. Can you come in and be in on the committee meeting? And I was blown away. And they were sitting there figuring out themes with me in the room. Fun. And here I am, 25-year-old Jared, just sure. With some very well-known people. Sure. And I'm I don't, well, if you want to do this, then maybe we should, put the focus here. if it's going to be Italian themed, we have these types of things. Let's go with these type of colors. Let's keep it Tuscan,
right?
That kind of stuff. So be ready to have a conversation about mood, look, feel, and again, mission, right?
And what I hear in that is engage us as a partner, not a vendor.
Correct.
Make us part of the planning process so that we can help support the goals of the event as a whole, not just hey, we brought 2 speakers and a microphone.
Totally.
2 turntables and a microphone.
Yeah, exactly.
What are the 3 cardinal sins every charity should avoid?
Oh, okay. I'm gonna be as like neutral as possible here.
Okay. Sure.
Relying on somebody who knows somebody to get you a deal. Right.
I got a cousin who's a DJ.
Correct. And I'm not saying that you can't do that, but don't just rely on that. Get some more information on what their PA is and what they're planning on doing and how many microphones they're bringing. Ask questions to get the information.
Right.
I would say that. Not prioritizing the AV budget as a whole, including lighting. Sometimes I see people that are like, oh, we'll be fine. We have bistro lights. And how that goes, where it's like, yeah, but the room is this big and you really need something brighter during the auction to read those bid paddles.
I can't tell you how many events I've done outdoors where they didn't go stand in the room, getting to stand in the field, in the vineyard, under the oak tree at the time we were going to be starting the auction and think to themselves, oh, the sun goes down.
Right.
It gets dark.
Yeah.
I've done events at Krug, Charles Krug, not a Krug event, just Krug as a venue where we're on that big concrete stage looking out towards the oak tree that's gone now.
Yep.
They cut that oak tree down, but looking out towards that oak tree, and the lights around that oak tree were the only lights we had on the crowd. Right. It was literally so dark that bidders were,
Well, and the other thing is like, Tom always used to tell me, yes, it's only an hour, but if you need lighting for an hour, you need lighting.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so, that auctions, you don't necessarily want auctions to go long, but if it's hot, you don't want to cut it because the sunlight is waning. Right.
Right.
So being able to plan for that accordingly. Yeah. There have been so many events where I was early on in the process and like, but we're actually going to do it early in the day. And like, we don't really need to worry about stage lighting. And I'm like, if the last 2 auction lots are your biggest and you run the risk of going over and it gets dark and your auctioneer can't see paddles or people,
right,
you're leaving money on the table.
Yeah. Literally leaving money on the table. Rapid fire favorites.
Man,
you good?
Or
are you just getting your answer?
I'll just get the last one too.
Sure.
The last thing that I would say, and again, it's a little repetitive, not engaging us as a partner.
Sure.
Right? Like, come at us with a list of wants and needs and your previous experiences and what's important to you.
Sure.
Again, not to beat a dead horse, but it's something that Michael Irvine does really, really well with Boys and Girls Club Sonoma. Yeah. Like, here's a theme, here's a deck, here's what I want, here's where I want to put the emphasis, here's what I want to go for in the main room. And there's also another planner out of the East Bay that I've known since she was at Make-A-Wish. Her name is Amy Zeiser.
Okay.
She holds a lot of production meetings in the lead up to the event to make sure that all of the content is the right aspect ratio, that the text is correct on the video wall, right? There have been times where we get content on a video wall and we have to go, that's way too much text.
Sure.
Like, let's keep it small. Let's make it another one, that kind of stuff. So coming at us as a collaborator and a creative partner is going to work wonders for us and the client.
Clients are shocked to find out that I'm willing to participate in committee meetings and board meetings to give presentations. And I'm like, look, I'm not trying to inject myself into the inner workings of your organization. But on the flip side, I got experience that I am happy to bring, and you can take it or leave it. But let's make conscious decisions, right?
Yeah,
let's at the very least understand that we're making a choice as opposed to just blindly hoping a path works.
Totally. And I remember early on in the COVID days when we were doing so much virtual and we'd be sitting in these meetings and, You know, it almost felt like we were double teaming the client sometimes where it's like, I don't know, Greg, what do you want to do? Okay, well, I think that we should do this on this lower third. And like, you know, okay, cool. Let's come up with a graphic there. Okay, well, what about this auction lot? Okay, well, you know what I mean? And we're just, and I'm like, hey, Greg, how does this look? And you're like, oh, that's sick. That's perfect. Like that kind of stuff. Like being able to deliver and manage client expectations. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. Okay, let's do some rapid fire favorites. Favorite band?
Poison the Well, hands down.
That sounds like a metal band.
Florida, metallic hardcore. They were kind of like, how do I put it? You know the song that plays in The Bear? Okay, The Refused. They were like the next Refused.
Okay.
So lesser known band, but obviously, yes.
Favorite book?
Book of Five Rings from Miyamoto Musashi.
Don't know it.
Miyamoto Musashi was the most well-known sword duelist back in like feudal Japan.
Okay.
So he wrote a book called the Dokodo, which is the way of walking alone. And then he wrote the Book of Five Rings, which are just a series of teachings about how to be a good swordsman and martial artist, but also how to be a craftsman and an artist and how all of those things work together and like how the mindset that you need, to excel at anything in life. And so letting that work its way into what I do.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Favorite food?
Al pastor, baby.
Like tacos, burritos, salad, all of the above.
If it has al pastor on it and the al pastor is fire, it doesn't matter. Whether it's a burrito bowl, taco, I'll get after it. And I thought long and hard about that question.
No, I appreciate the thought. Favorite TV show or movie?
Oof. Well, I did both. Band of Brothers, hands down. I mean, Dick Winter. Dick Winters is like an American hero. And then also movie Creed. It's got Michael B. Jordan.
Oh, Creed. Boxing film.
Yeah. I had actually just watched it after I had sat down and watched Rocky 1, 2, 3, and 4, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
And
masochist or a completionist, one or the other.
Yeah, it was like a $10. It was in the $10 bin at Walmart one night.
Sure.
And so I grabbed it and watched them all. And then my wife and I, back when we were dating, we were like, let's go to a movie. And we just stumbled into Creed. And literally the whole time we were squeezing each other's hands, like our eyes were tearing up.
Wow.
Just because of like where we were in our life.
Sure.
Like devoted to, obviously I was really into judo at the time. She was a fitness professional and it was awesome. The music, the cinematography, everything.
And Michael B. Jordan.
And Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler.
Right.
So, yeah.
Favorite place to visit?
Cook's Meadow in Yosemite. Really, actually was there 2 years ago during the winter. And I had never been to Yosemite during the winter.
I haven't been in the wintertime.
And it was like phenomenal. Like I couldn't, if you didn't think that creator, like whether you're religious or not, God, creator, whatever, you're just like, wow.
Regardless of religious standpoint, there is something spiritual about standing in the middle of Yosemite and looking at that and realizing that there are definitely forces at work bigger than me in this universe.
Totally.
And whether it's glacial erosion taking place over millions of years or somebody with intention carving it out, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Anything we've missed? Any questions I should have asked that didn't?
No, I think we pretty much nailed it. I feel like I might have been a little long-winded, so feel free to edit down as you need. But
what's that? Long-winded? I have no idea what long-winded is like.
When Tom was like, Jared, I think you might like doing this podcast with Greg. And I was like, yeah, maybe. Because it's like I said, it just feels like we're just chilling.
Yeah, I don't know. That's part of the goal. Well, dude, I totally, what did you said? There it is? No.
That's what's up.
That's what's up. Thanks for joining. I so appreciate you and your insights. You can find out more information about Jared Villareal and Lux Productions on their website, thelux.com. Link in the description of this podcast. The Lux is also on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all those good things. You can find us. You can thank you for joining us for this Inside the Industry edition of Black Tie and Tails. As always, you can find us on YouTube and all your favorite podcast distribution channels. Be sure to check out our other Inside the Industry interviews, as well as our regular podcast at blacktieandtails.com.
Oh yeah, there you go. That Envato music.
That's what's up.
That's what's up. That's what's up.